Hello there, this is Paul again, and today I have a special episode for you if you're following along with my other videos of me modifying my cameras. So this is a new to me Bolex H16EL. Okay, I got this as a parts camera off of eBay from a guy who's pretty much a very well-known seller on eBay. He's got probably pretty good percentage, 10 or 15% of the listings up on eBay are by this one seller. I don't want to say his name. Anyway, I got it recently from him as a parts camera, and he said it doesn't run. I don't know why it doesn't run. So he took the door off. He took the door off. He took the viewfinder off, and he was just selling the body by itself. I said, and it was a very good price, and then it dropped down to even better price. And I was a little kind of like wishy-washy on buying it, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And so I get this thing without the viewfinder, without the door, for a very good price. I, he mails it to me. I get it in 4 or 5 days, and when I get it to my house, I impact it and put power on it. And I waited. I said, "Well, wait, before I put power on it, let me check into this camera." So I took it didn't have the door on, so let me take the door off. And so this is what I'm looking at. And I thought to myself, there's only a few things that'll stop this camera cold from running. One is there's a fuse in the base here, and it could be that, but let me go for the simpler thing. Is there anything stuck in the gate? So I open the gate, I remove the bottom screw here, and I pull the gate out, and there's a piece of film in there about 6 inches long that's wrapped around here. This is the lower sprocket. So it's wrapped around there and it's stuck in the gate. And I said, wow, that's unusual. I grabbed a pair of tweezers, pulled it out of there, made sure I got it all out of there and opened up the little, springy holders and cleared it all out, put power on the camera, pushed the button, and bam, it started right up. So that little piece of, uh, film was what was stopping the camera from running. And so I thought to myself, wow, I just got a really good deal on this thing. Let me go grab the door. He still had a couple for sale that were from these cameras. He had two of these up on eBay. So I grabbed the door and he sends that to me. And I'm kind of like, well, I knew he had the viewfinder also for sale, but I was kind of like, there was a lot more than the door and the camera body. So I waited a little while and I thought maybe he'll drop the price, but he never did. So I went ahead and bought the viewfinder. These are kind of hard to find for an EL because there's a special feature in the EL. It has an internal light meter. This is the ISO setting for light meter. And so I bought this viewfinder. And when I got it, um, I was like, oh, there's no screws. How am I going to attach this thing? Well, I took the top cover off of it, and the screws were inside in a little plastic bag. And I thought to myself, well, there's two LEDs that sit right here, two red LEDs that sit in a housing with little slits in front of them, and that's your light meter. When the two LEDs are of equal brightness, then you're you're in your perfect exposure. If one's a little brighter, you get overexposure. If one's a little brighter on the left side, you get underexposure. But when they're both matched, you get, the rated box speed of your film. Anyway, uh, the wires were cut clear up, and I was like, oh my gosh, man, how am I going to get, how am I going to get this thing going? And so I bought a pack of LEDs off of Amazon, and they're 3mm red LEDs. So I soldered wires to them. I get this is a project camera now. And so you pull this little piece of leather back and that little piece of leather back, and then there's a screw here, and then you remove the FPS dial. There's a hex screw, a little tiny grub screw holding that on. Okay, you take that off first, take out the four screws, turn it on its side, pull the top up. There's wires down in this corner, so I had to be super careful not to put any stress on those wires. So I stuck a little plastic box that when I opened the top, it could lay on top of that box. And so I traced the wires into the camera onto the printed circuit board, soldered in new LEDs. This took me a lot of time because I'm trying to be very careful not to damage anything. And anyway, I soldered the LEDs where they go on the printed circuit board inside here. And then, I got it all hooked up, put power on it, and one of them goes bright and the other one is not on at all. Okay, so the one on that side, the far side there, is full bright all the time, and the one on this side is completely dim. And so I'm like, wow, there's got to be something else wrong with this then. Well, let me take this cover off real quick one-handed without dropping anything. And you'll see that this is the famous Bolex prism. The Bolex prism is like a kind of uh, like a beam splitter. I don't know if you've ever heard of a beam splitter, but some of the light goes through and some of the light goes up and then it goes through transit prism, goes through here and goes through the viewfinder. On the 13X models like this Bolex EL is, there's a little magnifier on the top here. See that little half moon thing on the top? That's a glass magnifier. And so light goes through there, goes through the magnifier, goes, just like I said before. And so when you push this little button down, watch what happens. A little photoresistor comes up, or what they used to call an electric eye, or anyway, it's a resistive circuit that when light hits it, it affects the amount of resistance. Okay, so I flipped this open, and I went from both of those connections. There's a red and black wire, if you can't see it, just inside there. And I checked and I traced the wires back to the same board that the LEDs are on, and they're right about here inside the camera. And I did not get any continuity, which means there's no connection from there to there. So I kept checking, kept checking, and finally I got continuity on the red wire, but I cannot get continuity on the black wire. Now, I was able to eventually get continuity and get the meter to beep telling me I had a connection. But I do believe that um, you know uh, photoresistor is inoperative. So I only get a red light on one side because it's expecting some variation in the electricity that centers the signal between the two lights. Anyway, that's beyond my current capabilities. Since I don't have the schematic, I don't have a repair manual, any of that. So the camera's running. I put it all back together. But before I did that, I decided to convert this camera to Super 16. And that's going to be in the title, so I assume that's why most people are here. So what I did was I removed the front turret. I placed the camera on its back on this side down, okay? Then I removed these 4 screws and this top plate with the turret, or the the lens mounting system is it comes right off. Okay, then there's a spacer, a metal spacer that's black, that's made out of steel and is cut in the same shape with holes and slots and stuff in it. And then there's this front turret plate, which would normally be the turret plate on any other kind. There's no turret on this camera, there's just a lens mount. So I get in here. I did not remove this. I taped it down. I did not want to mess with it because there's wires going through here. There's a wires for the clap lamp, which sits right here. There's a clap lamp that lights up when you push the start button for a fraction of a second. Anyway, and marks the beginning of your shot. So I don't want to take this off. I just took this off, and then I also went in and put one of my Bolex gates that I have manufactured. If you watched any of my other videos, let me focus this thing. If you watched any of my other videos, you know that I have designed this Super 16 gate. Here's the original one. They're almost identical. This one has 2 plastic, inserts that Bolex installed back in the 1970s, and that's where the claw rides. I've explained this in other videos, so I don't want to go into too much depth. But this is the standard 16 that was in there, and I replaced it with one of these. Now I checked the mic with a micrometer the thickness of this thing, and I checked it with the original one, and they were exactly, I mean exactly the same thickness. So that gave me a very good positive feeling that this thing was going to work out for me. So I make plastic inserts. I make them just fit snugly in there, and then I glue them in place like the factory would have done. And now I have a Super 16 gate inside my camera. Well, when Bolex did this job and J&K Camera did this job, they make this hole a little bit bigger in this direction by 1 millimeter. So I am a retired aircraft structures mechanic. So that kind of thing, I've done locating and moving holes and whatever, precision measurement and all that. I'm very used to that kind of thing. So it didn't, fill me with any kind of anxiety trying to do that work. So what I did was, here's a RX5, just for example, that I have from another project. But let's see, it's going to be hard to do this one-handed, but it sets something like this, okay? So these 4 holes I drilled, I located them, then I drilled them undersize in this plate, okay? So this is shaped a little differently, but it's pretty much the same thing. The hole locations are in the same location. And so then after drilling it, there's a giant hole here because this has this turret on it. I mean, excuse me, the lens mount is a huge Bolex, bayonet mount. That's what it's called, the bayonet mount. So the bayonet mount would be right here on this. So there's a giant hole there, and this post doesn't exist. And then I bolted it down, okay? I bolted it down with some special tools, and then I moved it. I put parallels here and here to keep it in the same transitional space this way. Let's say that's the XY direction. And then I moved it 1 millimeter, and I tightened the bolts I had holding these two things together, and then flip it over, and I drilled these to 4 millimeters, and I bought a 4.2 millimeter reamer, which is the one you need for this hole. It's 4.2 millimeters, God knows why. And then so now I relocated those holes in my milling machine, and I drilled them, and then I reamed them up to 4.2 millimeters, and that moves them over in this direction, which allows you to move the turret in that direction. If you'll notice, there's a ridge right here. Normally this edge and this edge are perfectly flush, but it's 1 millimeter that way. And why do you do that? Because with the new gate in there, and the gate being wider to this direction, let me show you that. So this is how the gate would sit in the camera, and you notice that it's a little wider in this direction, that direction there towards the door, okay? So now you have to recenter this turret. That's why I had to drill the holes. Basically, you're slotting the holes slightly, and then you remount this in the offset direction so that it's over 1 millimeter. That centers the turret back over the the Super 16 gate. Okay, so how do you verify that the 16 millimeter gate is in alignment with the Bolex bayonet mount perfectly? Well, I came up with this. I designed this insert right here. See this black piece of semi-transparent plastic in the middle here? It's kind of hard to focus this thing. That is exactly the Super 16 gate, okay? And then I printed it at 600 dots per inch on my laser printer. I verified the size was correct. There's a little dot you may not be able to see in the center of that, okay? And then I go inside and I put the Bolex prismatic focusing device in the gate. And what that does is it allows you to see backwards through the gate. There's a viewfinder here. There's a prism behind it, which has a ground glass built into it. And it attaches, you remove the pressure plate here and you install it in the same position. And then you click it into position, and now you can see reverse through the gate. The purpose of that device was to allow you to do titling and things like that, and macro photography when looking through the viewfinder may be a little bit less surefire way of focusing. This gets you exactly, surefire where it's supposed to be in focusing. So that's in there, and there's a little lens looking viewfinder thing that hangs out the side here. And now you can see backwards through the gate. Okay, so I can see all the edges of the um, of the new Super 16 gate through this thing, and then I put this inside here. Okay, let me stick it in there real quick. Okay, I had to open that gate up, and so this goes in like so. Hang on. Okay, now this this reticle in the middle, I line it up, and then I attach tubes to it, extension tubes, and look straight through it, put a light through this way, and examine that this is exactly in alignment with the gate. What that tells me is that the center of this is exactly coincident with the gate. Okay, so this turret is exactly where it needs to be in alignment with the Bolex gate. So that gives me great confidence that I've installed this exactly, in the offset it needs to be centered. Okay, so now what you do is I take this off, I open the prism, and I remove uh, this magnifier right here. It's kind of hard to see. I'll try to make this brighter when I edit this. But there's a little mask under there that sits on top of the prism here, and that mask defines where the image is in the gate. So I take that out, I opened it up 1 millimeter that way, and then I made it, a square cutout exactly in that shape, and then put it all back together. Now that was very tricky because I did not take this out of the camera. I already had, that's all perfectly aligned. I didn't want to mess with it. So there's 2 screws that hold it. And so I had to take the turret off to get to the rear screw. The front one I could get to easily with this flips out. It's on a hinge. So you can flip this out. I'm not going to do it one-handed and knock my camera to the ground, but take my word for it. There's a screw here and a screw here. You take those off, the prism mask comes out. You take the prism mask, open it up 1 millimeter that way. I am not giving anybody instructions. I'm telling you how I did it. So if somebody, decides to crack open their Bolex EL and does some, stuff that's makes it never work again, don't blame me. I'm not asking or telling or giving instructions to anybody on how to do this. I'm just telling you how I did it. Thanks for uh, watching. And I've shot test footage with it. I've looked at it through the focusing device. I lined it up using the focusing device. Then I go through the normal viewfinder. Everything's in alignment. The only thing I don't have is, the internal light meter, which, no other Bolex camera has that internal light meter. So yeah, it's a little bit of a loss, but I'm way ahead at this point because I got this thing for a really good price. I've converted it to Super 16 millimeter, and I've shot film with it, and it came out well. I'll put a card at the end of this video if you want. All right, well, this is my original Bolex EL. I've had this thing since 1998. I bought it, and I got it out of the back of Photoshopper magazine when they used to have ads in Photoshopper magazine. This guy, Bernie, in I think Cleveland or someplace like that, he sold it to me, a full Bolex kit. I got the lens, I got the 2 magazines, the motor, the power connectors, 2 batteries, the case, I mean filter holders, the whole 9 yards. The only issue with it was I didn't find out for a while because I didn't shoot film with it when I first got the camera. But after I shot some test film with it, there was a little line under the bottom of the film that was in every shot, and so I looked closely at it, and the prism had a slight separation at the bottom. So that camera sat for a while, and I finally, found the parts and I sent it off and had it fixed. But now it's exactly perfect. I mean, this thing is like factory original. There's not a scratch on it, and I'm so glad I have it, because the prices I could never afford to buy, they're just prices on Bolex cameras, as you probably know if you collect them or wanted to buy one. They've gone, kind of crazy, I think. Anyway, I'm enjoying the fact that I now have a standard unmodified Bolex that I shoot with the Cerui 1.25 anamorphic, and I shoot that anamorphic for widescreen, and then I have the newly modified Bolex H16EL without the light meter working, but everything else is perfect on it. And it's Super 16, so I get to shoot both types of film formats. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will link, like I said, I will link the recent film I shot. It's just some black and white shot. I shot it down some XX down by the ferry crossing in Houston here. And so thanks for watching. If you stayed with me this long, thank you very much. If you liked what you saw here, please maybe think about giving me a like and maybe subscribe, because I have so much more equipment to show you. If you're interested, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.